A manager gave drugs to a 12-year-old child actor. What Clint Eastwood did next got him arrested by the FBI. It was March 2004, and Clint Eastwood was directing Million Dollar Baby when he noticed something disturbing about his youngest cast member. 12-year-old Danny Morrison was one of the most talented child actors Clint had ever worked with, but something was very wrong. Danny played the son of Hilary Swank's character in several key scenes. He was bright, professional, and had a natural ability that reminded Clint of the great child actors of Hollywood's golden age. But Danny was always exhausted. Not the normal tiredness of a young actor working long days. This was something deeper, a bone-deep fatigue that made his eyes look older than his years. Danny would deliver his lines perfectly, hit his marks flawlessly, but between takes he'd practically collapse into his chair. "Kid's a trooper," the assistant director mentioned to Clint. "Never complains, always ready when we need him. But man, he looks like he hasn't slept in weeks." Clint had been watching Danny carefully. The boy would arrive on set at 6 a.m., looking drained, somehow perk up during filming, then crash again during lunch breaks. It wasn't normal 12-year-old behavior. What really caught Clint's attention was Danny's manager, Marcus Reed. Reed was a slick 40-something man who dressed expensively and talked constantly about Danny's brand and market potential. He never let the boy out of his sight and was always handing him pills. "Just vitamins," Reed would say when anyone asked. "Growing boy needs his nutrition. These Hollywood schedules are demanding." But Clint had been around long enough to know that vitamins didn't make exhausted children suddenly energetic for exactly as long as a filming session lasted. The situation became clearer during the third week of production. Clint was reviewing dailies in his trailer when he heard raised voices from Danny's trailer next door. Through the thin walls, he could hear Marcus Reed talking to Danny's parents, Robert and Linda Morrison. "The kid's getting lazy," Reed was saying. "Yesterday he asked if he could take a nap during lunch break." "A nap? He's 12 years old. 12-year-olds don't need naps." "Maybe he's just tired," Linda Morrison said weakly. "He's been working a lot lately." "Tired doesn't pay for your new house," Reed snapped back. "Tired doesn't cover your credit card bills. Danny's got 3 more films lined up after this one, plus 2 television guest spots. We can't have him dragging." "What about school?" Robert Morrison asked. "The tutor says he's having trouble concentrating." "School is secondary. Danny's making more money in a month than most teachers make in a year. He can get his GED later if he wants to." Clint heard Reed rummaging through what sounded like a medicine bag. "Give him 2 of these tomorrow morning, 1 at lunch and 1 before evening scenes. That'll keep his energy up." "Are you sure they're safe?" Linda asked. "They're perfectly legal, prescribed by a doctor. Danny's just got attention issues, needs a little help focusing. Lots of child actors take these." Clint had heard enough. That evening, he arranged to speak privately with Danny during a break between scenes. "How are you feeling, Danny? You look tired." Danny glanced around nervously, checking to see if Marcus was watching. "I'm okay, Mr. Eastwood. Just a little sleepy sometimes." "What kind of vitamins is Marcus giving you?" "I don't know. White pills and orange ones. He says they help me concentrate better." "How do they make you feel?" Danny was quiet for a moment. "Weird, like my heart beats really fast and I can't sit still. But then later, I feel really tired, more tired than before." "How long has Marcus been giving you these vitamins?" "Since my first movie, about 2 years ago." Clint felt his stomach tighten. A 12-year-old child had been taking unknown pills for 2 years, and no one was questioning it except him. "Danny, do you ever see a regular doctor? Not just for movie insurance, but for checkups?" "Marcus says he handles all my medical stuff. My parents signed papers." That night, Clint made a phone call that would change everything. He contacted Dr. Sarah Chen, a pediatrician who specialized in child welfare cases and had consulting relationships with several major studios. He described Danny's symptoms and behavior without naming names. "Mr. Eastwood," Dr. Chen said after hearing the details, "what you're describing sounds like stimulant abuse. If someone is giving a child amphetamines or similar drugs without proper medical supervision, that's child endangerment." "What kind of drugs are we talking about?" "Could be anything from Adderall to more serious stimulants. Used inappropriately, they can cause heart problems, sleep disorders, stunted growth, and serious psychological issues. In children, the risks are even higher." "What should I do?" "If you suspect a child is being given drugs inappropriately, you need to contact Child Protective Services immediately. This is a mandatory reporting situation." The next morning, Clint called the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services. Within hours, a social worker named Maria Santos was on the set, along with a plainclothes detective from the LAPD's Juvenile Protection Unit. Clint explained his concerns privately, away from Danny and his family. The social worker listened carefully, taking detailed notes. "We'll need to observe the child and possibly test any substances he's been given," Maria Santos said. "Can you help us document what's happening without alerting the manager or parents? What do you need? If possible, we need samples of whatever pills the manager is giving the child. We also need witnesses to document when and how these substances are administered." Clint set up a subtle operation. His assistant director would casually film behind-the-scenes footage that happened to capture Marcus giving pills to Danny. The cinematographer would document Danny's behavior before and after taking the medications. The set medic would be available to assess Danny's physical condition. The evidence they gathered over 3 days was damning. The pills Marcus was giving Danny tested positive for amphetamines, specifically a mixture of Adderall and a stronger stimulant that wasn't approved for use in children. Danny was receiving doses that would be considered excessive even for an adult ADHD patient. When Danny took the pills, his heart rate would spike to dangerous levels. His blood pressure would rise significantly. He'd become hyperactive and unable to focus on anything except the immediate task at hand. When the drugs wore off, usually 4 to 6 hours later, Danny would crash completely. He'd become lethargic, depressed, and sometimes disoriented. The set medic confirmed that Danny showed signs of chronic stimulant abuse, rapid weight loss, difficulty sleeping, anxiety, and what appeared to be early signs of heart problems. Dr. Chen examined Danny with his parents' permission, ostensibly for insurance purposes. Her confidential report to Child Protective Services was devastating. "This child shows clear evidence of systematic drugging," she wrote. "His growth has been stunted, his cardiovascular system is under stress, and he exhibits behavior consistent with chronic stimulant abuse. Without immediate intervention, there could be permanent physical and psychological damage." On Friday of that week, the trap was sprung. Federal agents had become involved because Marcus Reed was transporting controlled substances across state lines and providing them to a minor without a valid prescription. This wasn't just child endangerment, it was federal drug trafficking. At 10 a.m., as Marcus was preparing to give Danny his morning pills, FBI agents entered the set. "Marcus Reed, you're under arrest for distribution of controlled substances to a minor, child endangerment, and violation of federal drug trafficking laws." Marcus dropped the pill bottle, and white tablets scattered across the floor. "This is ridiculous," he shouted as agents handcuffed him. "Those are legally prescribed vitamins." "We've had them analyzed, Mr. Reed. These are Schedule II controlled substances. You're not a doctor, and you don't have a prescription for this child." Danny's parents were also detained for questioning, though they weren't immediately arrested. Their defense was that they'd trusted Marcus and believed he was giving their son legitimate medical supplements. The investigation that followed revealed the scope of Marcus Reed's operation. He wasn't just drugging Danny, he was managing 7 other child actors, all of whom were being given similar cocktails of stimulants to keep them working long hours without complaints. Medical examinations of all 8 children showed varying degrees of physical and psychological damage from chronic stimulant abuse. 3 of them required immediate hospitalization for heart problems and severe malnutrition. Danny was placed in protective custody temporarily while the legal situation with his parents was resolved. The court found that Robert and Linda Morrison had been negligent, but not intentionally abusive. However, they were required to undergo parenting classes and submit to regular monitoring by social services. Clint quietly arranged for Danny to stay with a foster family that specialized in caring for children from the entertainment industry. He also personally paid for Danny's medical treatment and therapy to help him recover from 2 years of systematic drugging. Marcus Reed was convicted on multiple federal charges, including drug trafficking, child endangerment, and running a criminal enterprise. He was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. The other child actors in Marcus's stable were removed from his management and received medical treatment. Several lawsuits were filed against production companies and studios that had employed Marcus without properly vetting his methods. Danny's recovery took nearly a year. He had to be gradually weaned off the stimulants under medical supervision, and he required extensive therapy to deal with the psychological trauma of being drugged and exploited. But Danny was resilient. With proper medical care, regular meals, adequate sleep, and a stable living situation, he began to thrive. Clint kept in touch with Danny throughout his recovery and teenage years, When Danny expressed interest in filmmaking rather than acting, Clint became an unofficial mentor. "I don't think I ever want to be in front of the camera again," Danny told Clint when he was 16. "But I love movies. I just want to be the person making them, not being used by them." Clint arranged for Danny to work as an intern on several film productions, learning every aspect of the business from a position of safety and respect rather than exploitation. Danny Morrison went on to attend USC Film School, where he graduated with honors. He's now a successful director, having made several critically acclaimed independent films that often deal with themes of childhood, exploitation, and recovery. In 2018, Danny won the Sundance Film Festival's Directing Award for a film about child actors in Hollywood. In his acceptance speech, he said, "This film exists because someone saw a 12-year-old boy being hurt and decided to do something about it. Clint Eastwood saved my life, but more than that, he showed me that adults could be trusted to protect children instead of exploit them." The Marcus Reed case led to significant changes in how the entertainment industry handles child actors. New regulations require independent medical oversight for any child working more than limited hours. Managers and agents working with minors must undergo background checks and certification. The Screen Actors Guild created new protections specifically for child performers, including mandatory education about their rights and anonymous reporting systems for abuse. Most importantly, studios now require multiple adult advocates for each child actor, people whose only job is to protect the child's welfare, not maximize their earning potential. Years later, when asked about the Danny Morrison case, Clint's response was characteristically direct. "A 12-year-old boy was being drugged so adults could make money off him. That's not complicated. You stop it, you punish the people responsible, and you make sure it doesn't happen to other kids." The case became a landmark in child protection law, frequently cited in legal proceedings involving the exploitation of minors in entertainment, sports, and other industries. Danny's story also inspired the Danny Morrison Act, California legislation that requires independent medical monitoring for all child performers and creates severe criminal penalties for anyone who provides drugs to minors in the entertainment industry. Today, Danny continues to make films that shed light on child exploitation and advocates for stronger protections for young performers. He's married, has 2 children of his own, and has never returned to acting. Marcus Reed was released from federal prison in 2018, but was immediately deported to his native Canada and is banned from working with minors in any capacity. The story serves as a reminder that children in the entertainment industry are particularly vulnerable to exploitation and that protecting them requires constant vigilance from responsible adults. If this story of protecting vulnerable children moved you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember that children's safety must always come before profit. Have you ever witnessed someone stand up for a child who couldn't protect themselves? Share your story in the comments.